Good night. Here one time tonight. God is good and God is good all the time. When they earn with your spirit divine, here give your word on tonight. And the topic gonna be I'm still talking about Jesus. The parable of the tenant. And you know, everything he talks about in parable always means something. So this parable also teaches us about God's goodness and patience. Now he prepared his vineyard and leased it to evil tenant. Now who own it repay him with more evil killing, the landlord's servant, and eventually his own son. So this story will be coming from Luke chapter 20, verse 9 through 19. Now, Jesus went on to tell the people this parable. Now, a man planted a vineyard, rented it to some farmers, and went away for a long time. So the owner of the vineyard is God, and the vineyard is the Israel. So it's harvest time. For the fruits and everything to come up. So he sent his servants to the tenants so they will give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. Now the tenant beat him and sent him away empty handed. So the tenant are the religion leaders, who wanted to crucify Jesus. That's who the tenant is. And God had rented that out to them. That's why he said evil people. You know, that he sent his servant. Now the servant is his prophet. So he sent his prophet over there, um, and the vineyard is to Israel. So he sent his prophet to Israel. So his servants, so his prophet can get some fruits and bring back. But every time he sent someone over there, they the religion leaders kill him, not kill him, beat him, and send him away empty-handed. So remember, God is the owner of the vineyard. And so now it's harvest time. So God sent his servant, which is the prophet, to the tenant, which is the religious leader. Now God is the owner that sent his prophet to get some fruit of the vineyard. Then the vineyard is his. He just ran it out to the religion leaders, you know. But the tenant, which is the religious leader, beat them and sent them back empty handed. So this is the first prophet he sent over there to get some fruit because it's harvest time. So God sent another prophet, but they beat them too, and treated them shamefully, and sent them away. So not only did they beat this second round prophet, they beat him and then treated them shamefully them. So that is true. And this is the same people that want to crucify Jesus. So now God sent another prophet, and they beat him also, as they had done the other, and treated him shamefully, putting him to open shame, using him in a very shameful manner, and sent him away empty as they had done the others. So now this is the second one. Not only they beat him, but shame for him and sent him away. So like God said, this is a mean tenant that he ranked his vineyard to. So 12. Now God sent a third, and they wounded him and threw him out. You know, so this time, they beat him, they threw him out. So now God sent the third one, and they wounded him by casting stones at him out of the vineyard. Cast him out of the vineyard. The vineyard is to Israel, and the Israel was his chosen ones. So the Israel is God's chosen one. The vineyard, is Israel. So not the vineyard. Jesus talking parable. The vineyard, God, just Israel is God's chosen people. So God sending the people to Israel. So He sending prophets to Israel. And they beating every time they send them over there because they kept telling him they need a king. They didn't need a prophet over them. So God kept sending them to them, but they kept beating them every time. So God sent the third prophet to get fruit from the vineyard, which is the owner. So he sent the third one. He sent the first and they beat him and sent him away. Then he sent the second one. They sent and beat him and treated him shamefully and then sent him away. So now he sent the third one, and they wounded him and then threw him out of the vineyard. Now, so 13. Then the owner of the vineyard said, what shall I do? I will send my son, whom I love very dearly. Perhaps they will respect him. So now, God is about to send Jesus to the world to save all of us. And Jesus had to be on this earth, and experience so much rejection, so much betrayal. He had to experience all that, and God sent him here for all of us. He got disrespected, especially when he went to his hometown. You know, so and so God said, well, I'm gonna send my son, who I love dearly. I'm gonna see if they should respect him since I'm the owner, and I'm sending my son, so they should respect his son. So God, the owner of the vineyard, who sent three prophets to get fruit, really he sent three prophets to be the king over Israel. And they all got, beaten. One got shamefully, one got cast out of the vineyard. So now he's sending his son Jesus, who he loved. Perhaps they will respect him since he his son. So he figured just because that's his son, you know, he said they should respect him. So still on 13. Then it said the Lord of the vineyard who planted it and expect fruit from it and send his servant from time to time for it. So God said, what shall I do? So who else can be sent that is likely to do any good with such an ungrateful and unfruitful people? So that's what he called the Israel, the ungrateful and the unfruitful people. He's sending them prophets to them to ask for a king to be over them. But every time he sent someone over there, because see, the servant was the prophet. He kept sending the prophet over there to the Israel, but they kept beating them and sending them away. So I will send my beloved son, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, who he loved dearly, of his soul, and the delight of his heart. He determined to send him that he did not send to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Says the house of Israel, they lost sheep. So he determined to send someone over there to them because they become to be lost sheep. And they should not be lost sheep because God dealt with them way back in the first generation. They should have everything they could by now. But God called them lost sheep. And he determined to send someone to them. You know. So when a tenant, we're on 14, when a tenant wishes religious leaders, now this is the same leaders who crucified Jesus, wanted Jesus to be crucified. They saw him, so they talk among themselves, that this is the heir. Let kill him and the inheritance to be theirs. So they know Jesus. They know Jesus preached that word. They know he the Son of God. So they say he might be the heir of this vineyard. They over the vineyard. So they figure if we could kill him, we could be the owner. We could have inheritance of this land. You know, so they heard him preach and observed the miracles done by him. So they reasoned among themselves as the scribes and Pharisees, you know, and um and the elders of the people often did. So saying this is the heir of God. Now this son is his heir or the heir of the vineyard. So they're talking among themselves, trying to figure things out. So being by a permanent heir of all things to the kingdom of Israel. Let kill him. So they're saying he the kingdom of Israel, They know he the son of God. They done saw him preach. They done saw him did miracles. They know he a heir. So now they're saying, let's kill him. Maybe we can be an heir. Maybe we can inherit this vineyard. So that's all they was thinking about. No, 15. So they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. What then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? Now they're trying to be sarcastic. They're trying to be sarcastic now. Now they know that's the son, the heir, the son. So now they're talking about we let's kill him and let's see what the owner of the vineyard would do. So they cast him out of the vineyard. They rejected him as a Messiah. So this what this whole thing is about. This whole thing is about that God sent his son down here for us. You know, but Jesus got rejected. He got rejected as a Messiah, even denied that he was the Jews of the nation. They said he was a Samaritan and delivering him to the Gentile. So they deliver him to the Gentile, knowing that he is a Jew, but they try to paint him as a Samaritan. So there was without and were aliens from the commonwealth of Israel. So in at their last, they had him without their city and put him to death. So that's what this whole story about. The whole story is about that God's son a prophet. God kept on sending prophets to them. And it wasn't working out. So God decided, I'm gonna send my son, and I'm gonna see if y'all gonna respect my son, because he come down here to save the world. You see what I'm saying? So they're still rejecting him as a Messiah. Knowing he was the light of the world. Knowing they saw the miracles, they saw him preach, but that doesn't matter to them. They wanted to still crucify him. And my thing is, when he said Paul, nobody else can be heir. Because he ain't left no children behind. So they said, we kill him, we can be the heir. We can inherit, this, and we can inherit that. But they can't. They can't. Jesus was set down here for a reason, and nobody couldn't take his place. So from the commonwealth of Israel, and at last he went out this city and put him to death. So 16, he will come and kill those tenants and give the vineyard to others. Now see, they figure if they kill him, they'll get the vineyard. They'll have the inheritance of the vineyard. But here God said, I'm going to kill those tenants and give the vineyard to others when they thought they was going to get it. So when they heard, they said, God forbid, you know, um, he should come and destroy these tenants, which had he accomplished at the destruction of Jerusalem. So now these words are the answer of the chief priests of the scribe. Remember, I put out yesterday, that they was questioning on Jesus. Who gave you authority? Who gave you authority to do the type of thing that you do? You doing miracles and you preach. Who gave you authority to do this? So Jesus had concrete this parable really was against them and answered their question. So the chief priest, scribe, the elders, to the bold question that they asked him, put to them by Christ after he had delivered the parable of teaching. God also said that he should give the vineyard to others. 17, Jesus looked directly at them, and asked, what is the meaning of this that which is written? So he asked them, this is the leaders, the religion leaders that question him, so he looked directly at them and asked, what is the meaning of which is written? The stone, the builder, the reject, has become the cornerstone. So Jesus showed the unbeliever leaders that even their rejection of the Messiah had been prophesied. Even though they reject him, even though they disrespect him, his purpose still was fulfilled. It did not stop anything. Because God was in him. Once you got God with you, no matter how many people reject, no matter how many people try to stop you, His purpose was still fulfilled. So Jesus showed the unbelievers, the leaders, that even their rejection, of the Messiah had been prophesied. It been prophesied. It didn't stop anything. In the scriptures were fulfilled. So ignoring the capstone, the cornerstone that was dangerous, but the religion leaders had no trouble. They weren't around about, what Jesus was saying. They ignored, had no trouble. They immediately wanted to arrest him. So all that speaking he was doing, they didn't pay no attention at all. They still wanted to arrest him. So 18. Everyone who falls on that stone will be broken to pieces. Anyone on whom it falls will be crushed. You know, so they killed God's son now. So everyone who fall on that stone will be broken to pieces, and anyone on whom it fall will be crushed. So now who shall fall upon Christ by faith and build upon him as the foundation of the stone? For such shall be saved, but that stumble at him and are offended, with him and fall by unbelief and hardness of the heart. Now such do themselves much hurt and mischief, and expose themselves to danger and be very for destruction. So they got destruction coming their way. So 19, the teachers of the law and the chief, you know, they was looking for ways to arrest him. They kept on looking for ways. Did not put that out yesterday. They kept on trying to find ways, to arrest him. And I just put that out with Judas had betrayed Jesus, and the tribes they was trying to find all kind of ways to come at Jesus. Then Judas come along, made them happy. So they was looking for ways to arrest him immediately. They know that he spoke this parable against them. So immediately they know. They know he spoke this parable against them. So sometimes when people say certain stories and stuff like that, sometimes they'll know you're speaking of them. He speak this whole story of parable, and they immediately know Jesus was talking about them because they were questioning Jesus, asked him a question, so he told the story of parable, and all the while it was against them. So he spoke this parable against them, and they were afraid of the people. That's why when I put that out earlier, that's why they they did not want to kill him at the festival because they had the people there. The people loved Jesus. That's why they came in the middle of the night, while no crowd was out there and tried to arrest Jesus. So the scribe and the chief priest, they tried to lay hands on him that very hour, and they feared the people, for they understood that he spoke this parable against them. They had the people as I talked there earlier. They was at the festival. All the people there loved Jesus. They wanted to arrest him and put their hands on Jesus and everything else that night. But they feared the people, so they didn't want to do that in front of the people. So they following him, watch him and wait till the middle of the night when Judas on their right hand side, helping them, you know, helping them to arrest him. So the character, the meaning of the parable of the tenant, it's the character in this story are easily identified. It was easy to identify. The owner of the vineyard is God. The vineyard is Israel. You know, so the tenant are the religion leaders who wanted to arrest Jesus. So the servant are the prophet and the priest that God had sent out to Israel. It was a prophet that Israel kept saying they need a prophet, they need a king over them. So God had sent them prophets to them, but they kept on beating them and sending them away. So then God sent his son to be king over them. And they had him killed, and then They throw him out of the vineyard. So Jesus the parable directly answer the religion leaders. Remember, they asked him a question. So all this whole story was answering the question. Question about his authority. Their question about his authority. How you could do this? How you could do that? Who gave you authority to do miracles? Who gave you authority to be preaching to us? Who told you to do all this? And so they was questioning him. So he taught in his parables, and it was towards them. So Jesus know about their plan to kill him. So Jesus knew who was gonna betray him. Jesus knew who was gonna deny him. Jesus already know who was gonna try to kill him, because he already had God. He already predicted his death. He already predicted. So nothing wasn't surprise to him. He had to follow the script because it was part of his purpose. It had to be fulfilled. You know, and so they were part of his purpose. So they kept on trying to find ways. So Julia helped them out. So parable of the tenant is an example of parables that wasn't appreciated. So Jesus wasn't appreciated. Jesus came down here to save us. Jesus wasn't appreciated. Jesus was rejected. A lot of them didn't believe him. So the parable that what he wasn't appreciated by the people Jesus addressed. So he said to the crowd, his house will be called the house of prayer. But they are making it a den of robbers. Because every time God says people over there, they were just beating them up, and then the last one is son, they want to kill them. So the chief priests and the teachers of the law were furious, not owning. Remember I taught earlier, they were furious when Jesus had told them, all them know, ask them. And remember they slapped them. So they was furious. Not only was he disrespected, their tradition and healing people in the temple, court, but children were shouting to him in the temple court also. you know. So they know he was doing miracles. He was healing. He was bringing people back to life. He was doing all kind of miracles. Making them blind see. He was doing all kind of healing. Lady was bent over for 18 years. He had her to straighten up. Lady was bleeding for 12 years. He stopped the bleeding. All she had to do was touch him. So he perceived so many miracles. So there was like, who gave you authority to do all this stuff? You doing miracles, you preaching everywhere. Who, so there was questioning his authority. So Jesus had to tell them. So he told this story in the parable, ready to answer their question, and it was against them. So ultimately, at the end, they immediately know that he was talking to them. He was talking to them, and they knew he was talking to them. So it didn't matter, because after Jesus finished talking, they still wanted to arrest him. You know, so this story, was about our tenant. Really, it was about Jesus, that God had sent down here, to save us. You know, sent a seed down here to spread all over the world. He was the light of the world. You know, and Israel, they kept on having problem with kings. So when it got into the New Testament, God told them, I'm gonna send y'all the best king that you ever gonna have. And that was Jesus. So the Israelite was God's chosen people that kicked Jesus out. And that was someone that God had sent down here for them to have the best king that they ever gonna have. They done ran through all kind of kings. So when they got to the New Testament, God said, I'm gonna send you the best king that you ever have. So God sent them 3 prophets, to be over them, and they beat them and sent them away. So God said, I'm going to send my son. I'm going to see if they're going to respect my son. So he sent his only forgotten son. And they took it on, wounded him and beat him and kicked him out. Kicked him out of the vineyard. So that was a dangerous thing that the Israel did, because God did everything for them. They was God chosen people from generation to generation. and to do that to his only son, that his son. But they kept saying they need a prophet. So God said in the New Testament, I'm going to send you a prophet. I'm going to send you a prophet, a best prophet that you've ever had. But they didn't even give him a chance. Then they kick him out. So that's what God was saying, and that's what Jesus was saying. He was disrespected. He was rejected, even rejected when he got to his hometown. So this whole parable of that, nobody respect him. Nobody, they disrespect him. They reject him. They didn't want believe in him. So all this stuff. He was a good man on this earth. To be a good example for us. A good example for us. And he got treated so horrible down here on this earth. Now he has so many people that love him, and that's why the tribes, they were scared of the people. That's why they didn't want to put their hands on Jesus. Because most everybody at that festival, they loved the Jesus. you know, and they kept on trying to find ways to arrest him. Remember, it was the feast and the festival was for 7 days. That was 7 days before his crucifixion. So that's why, they didn't put their hands on in the festival. So they had to wait 7 days, still trying to figure out how they're going to arrest him until Judas came along. You know, the devil got into him, put all kind of corrupted stuff up in his mind, and help them out of arresting Jesus, even though he had to fulfill his purpose, but it's still harmful when someone close to you betray you in that matter, so that's all the word I have for you on today. So y'all have a blessed night, and I see y'all on the next video.